children of all ages, welcome in once again to the long overdue podcast of the Dungeon of the Doctors of Doom, where I am your host, Alex the Shark Sparks, and joining me this week is the man who may as well be my co-host because he's here way more than everybody else. Give it up for our sponsor and our chief golf correspondent, Chris Street Justice Lee. Say hello to all the Delvers out there, Chris.
Hello.
We are back. Sorry we weren't here last week. People have been busy, man. It's summer, stuff's going on, and I know it's really weird to be skipping fantasy football podcast episodes so close to the fantasy football season, but we're kind of doing everything delayed, Chris. We don't even have a draft order yet, and the draft is 15 days away. How do you feel about that?
Considering the fact that I haven't done much prep, I feel perfectly okay with it.
Yeah, we can't prep for our draft spots because we don't know when we're drafting, but we also could have prepped for some spots, I suppose. But, yeah, Chris, since me and you, going to be a short episode today, just let everyone know, next week I will be out of town, so unless the guys decide to get together and record without me, which has never happened yet, there may not be an episode next week, I apologize, but then there will be some kind of huge episode, hopefully the day before the draft, on September 2nd, so we'll see.
I hope that's not when the draft order is being announced.
No, that I've already sent out a text to the group, and just to be clear, that September 2nd question mark, that's the day the draft is, so we would be recording the podcast on the 1st, potentially. But no, I will be sending out the draft order on Saturday. I have two ideas for it. One is kind of a more fun idea that incorporates a couple different things, but it takes more effort on my part, so it just depends on if I'm able to put it together. The other is much lamer, but it's at least going to have multiple witnesses, so you guys know that I'm legit. I mean, I'm always legit, but I don't want people throwing that out there because I already had someone make an accusation, someone who's on the pod who didn't even show up, so, you know, what do they know, right? But anyway, we're here, Chris, so we can talk sports. Any stories you want to touch on before we talk football?
Don't look now, but the Padres are playing themselves into the playoffs. I actually went to a game with Mitch. He showed up before me, and I showed up early to the game, so I was very impressed by that. They had a great game when we went, and they've been pretty hot.
Yeah, the fact that Mitch can show up to a baseball game but can't make it to the podcast, where all you have to do is turn on your computer, that's wild. That's wild. But glad you guys got to go. Yeah, and your pods, that they're moving and grooving, man. They're making a move. What do you think their chances are if they make the playoffs? Do you think they're hot enough to actually go on a run, or do you still think the top dogs that spend all the money are gonna run away with it?
I think they're hot enough to at least get a series, maybe win the play-in game and then be competitive in the next series. But if they face the Dodgers, I don't like their chances.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to when I said the team that spends all the money. Which, ironically, they don't have the best record in baseball, but it's close. Quite a few teams over the 70-win mark. You got the Rays, the Braves. The Brewers have the best record in baseball, surprisingly, and the Dodgers. So, yeah, we're getting there. My God, they play so many games, Chris, though. Just so many games.
It's so many. Like, you're looking at the playoff race, and you're like, oh, wow, like, this is really tight. How many games do they have left? You're like, 24. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, 126 down, 24 to go. All right, jeez. But, yeah, a lot of games in baseball, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Once you get to the big dance, though, anything can happen, right? Anything can happen in the playoffs. Normally in a 7-game series, the better team wins, but that's not always the case. There have been plenty of times where a team was thought to be the best team, and they choke it. So, we'll see. We will see what happens. As a Bravos fan myself, I'm obviously hoping the Braves do well. But yeah, glad you got to go to the game. Hope you enjoyed it. I have not been to a baseball game in a minute. I've been watching a lot of Savannah Bananas content, like online, however, which has been super fun and entertaining. If you guys have never watched Savannah Bananas, but if you're someone who's like on the fence about baseball, you're like, oh, I like baseball, but it's not entertaining enough, definitely check them out. Chris, have you ever watched a Bananas game or know what they are, I assume?
I know what they are. I was invited to go to a game at Petco Park, but wasn't able to make it. But yeah, I mean, some of the stuff you see online is looks pretty fun.
Yeah, so for just for those who don't know, the Savannah Bananas are a team. They started out as one team. Now they have a league. There's like 6 or 8 teams in the league now. It is a baseball league. It's basically guys who were minor league players who weren't good enough to go pro, but they're still good at ball. But the difference is the entire game is built around making it fun for the fans. For example, if a fan catches a foul ball, that's an out. So fans are involved in the game in that way. If you do a trick play, like a behind the back catch, backflip catch, just something like that, bounce the ball off your glove before you catch it, it's worth a bonus point potentially at the end of the game. And instead of it being whoever scores the most runs, it's whoever wins the most innings. So if one inning a team beats the other team 5-1, it's still only 1 point. So in baseball, you could have someone go on a 7-run first inning. You're like, well, this game kind of sucks because now there's a team down 7 runs, and unless the other team goes on a run, the game's gonna be one-sided. Well, no, in that, hey, you lose the first inning 7-0. Okay, you're down 1 point, no big deal. So you're still in it for a lot of the game, which keeps fans engaged, and also there's a time limit on the game, so it can never go long. So a lot of the issues that people have with baseball being boring, Banana Ball fixes. That's what's called Banana Ball. Obviously, the quality of play is not as high because they aren't major leaguers. They are, generally speaking, minor leaguers who either couldn't go pro or weren't good enough to stay pro, but they're still good. It's not like they're bad athletes. They're absolutely good athletes. So if you've never checked it out, I recommend it. Even if you're not a huge baseball fan, it can be fun. And if you're someone who's like, sometimes I like baseball, sometimes I don't, you'll probably like Banana Ball.
I didn't realize the nuances of the rules of Banana Ball, but you think there's a future in which a Banana Ball player gets either drafted or elevated to the MLB?
I think it's more. I'm going to say no, and the only reason I'm going to say that is because I think it's more a lateral move from MLB. Like, for example, I watched the Banana Ball game the other day, which is one that's kind of on my head, and we were talking about baseball. The game I watched the other day, pitcher got out there and threw 100 pitches, and he was a guy that, used to, he was a minor leaguer for a long time, and now he's like making his Banana Ball debut, but he's making his Banana Ball debut as like a 40-year-old man, you know what I mean? So he couldn't really, you know what I mean? So it's stuff like, now there have been like major league players who've like come and they do have guest people, that show up. Like they'll have a major leaguer show up and play. I was trying to see, I'm going to show a highlight from like something sick, that one of the coolest catches in Banana Ball history. But we'll see.
I think I saw this one.
The Iron Lotus from Coach Rack.
Yeah, this one was all over social media.
This just happened. But this is well, let me see if I can turn off the volume here if I can. There we go. All right, so Coach Rack, you can't see it, Chris, but the fans can. The Iron Lotus, he does a backwards backflip catch, and he makes it in the game. And cool story about that is he had never made that catch before. He off of an actual hit ball. He had practiced a bunch off like lobs, and he was like 1 for 40 on his catches. But he went for it in a game and got it. But that's the fun of Banana Ball, right? Like in a real major league game, if you did this, your coach would kill you. But a Banana Ball, it's like you just go for it, and if you miss it, who cares? But he nailed it. Crowd went nuts. I mean, you can't hear it because I muted it because I don't want to get copyright stricken like we always do. But yeah, so lots of fun stuff like that. Definitely go and check it out if you're interested.
Hey, Alex, you just reminded me, and I have a reminder on my phone actually. Is there a certain meme that you want to share with the world?
Oh my God, yes! I've been wanting to share this meme for a while. First, I'm going to share my screen with you just while I got you here. Okay. Well, you're not going to see the meme because that's different. But yeah, so this at this point, this is no longer relevant news, and I apologize in advance, but I'm still going to talk about it. There's a UFC fighter that was pretty popular back in the day, and he decided to make his return to the octagon. A guy named Conor McGregor. You guys may have heard of him. And a really hyped fight, super exciting. Did you have the pleasure of watching this fight, Chris?
I did. Actually, I did turn it on for this fight. Yeah, I actually tuned into this one.
Okay, well, I think the entire fight was shorter than the clip I just showed of that Iron Lotus catch, because it starts with Conor McGregor going to try to make a jumping kick, which, by the way, that is a terrible plan if you're ever in a mixed martial arts or any fight, really. Do not intentionally leave your feet. That is something you do in pro wrestling because it's scripted. Do not do that in a real fight. He left his feet, went for a kick, landed wrong, tore his ACL or something, and the fight was over.
Yeah, in his first fight back as like a 36-year-old vet.
Yeah, it was just so ill-advised. And the meme that Chris is referring to, and I think I may have posted as a thumbnail already, but if I haven't, I will. It's a question of who did it better, and it's a picture of Ray Gunn, the break dancer from Australia, doing the same poses as Conor McGregor, trying to get off the ground with his bum leg. And it's uncanny how similar they look. So, But yeah, thank you for reminding me because I've been forgetting. I've had this meme, guys, by the way, since the day after the fight, and I have not remembered to post it for a month. So, yay me.
We just talked about it off air, and I was serious when I said I was going to create a reminder, so I was reminded to let you know about it.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Appreciate you helping me out there. All right, got a little time left. I have one other non-NFL story to talk about, but did you have any other non-NFL stories to talk about before I went what I was going to go over?
No, I'm not going to bore the audience with golf talk because I already got in my Padres talk, so let's move on to football.
All right, fair enough. Well, I got one more non-football news. I mean, you're not the Laker fan of the group. I mean, I don't know if you are a Laker fan, Chris, because the other guys are, but are you a Laker fan?
I'm more of a Kobe fan.
Okay, that's what I thought. I never thought of you as a big Laker fan. Anyway, the Lakers have been sold again, which, interesting because, the Lakers for a long, long time were all part of one family, and now there have been multiple, transactions involving them over the past, few years. So, Lakers, I didn't know that they're on the market, but it sold for, I think, $12 billion, something insane, right, Chris? Do you remember?
Yeah, and I think the weird thing is they were just bought out. They were just purchased last year for I think 10
Yeah,
billion.
that's what it was. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They hadn't been sold for forever. The Bus family, when the patriarch died of the Bus family, the kids couldn't agree on what to do with it, and so they would some wanted to sell, some didn't. They kept it, but then eventually they agreed to sell it, like you said, last year for 10 billion, and now this year it's being sold again for 12.5 billion. So somebody made $2.5 billion on this deal. And I don't
Yeah,
know,
that's not a bad take. That's not a bad take for like 10 months.
especially when the Lakers weren't particularly good last year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like, I mean, the best thing they did last year was get a gift from the Mavericks, I guess. But that, that wasn't the Lakers doing anything. So, the Lakers a year and later and with less LeBron are now worth $2.5 billion more.
It
Inflation
says
gets
something
crazy.
about I think it says something about professional sports, probably the popularity of it, especially with gambling these days. I mean, yeah, I think sports franchises are worth more than ever now, right?
No, they absolutely are. It's funny. I forget. There was, I forget. There was some show I was watching. Ted Lasso. I don't. Have you ever watched Ted Lasso?
Oh yeah, I'm watching season 4 right now.
Okay, yeah, Ted Lasso's great. You should watch it. I'm not going to give any season 4 spoilers, but in season 2, Edwin Akufu, this character is like an African gentleman he's inherited $1.2 billion, and I think he wants to buy the team. And it's like, I'm sorry, what Premier League team can you buy for $1.2 billion? Like, there's no way. I don't know. I don't know what that. Like, I know American sports might be worth more, but there's no way. What is the average cost of Premier League team? Let's find out.
Yeah, that's like the cost of one of the like the second or third tier down that like JJ Watt bought, right?
Well, that's what's crazy because it says the average purchase. This is why I want to see that it, like on the, because they're smaller clubs. Yeah, so newly promoted clubs might only be worth 4.5 million. Like Burnley is one of them listed, and Burnley is one of the ones that was bought by, as you mentioned, JJ Watt, Dude Perfect. Those guys are all shareholders in Burnley. So I guess you can the lower tier clubs. It's the higher tier clubs that are between 1.5 and 5 billion. These are pounds, by the way, not dollars. The pound is worth more than $1, I believe, but I don't know how much. This is going to be a math
That's
show. I'm not going to do the conversion, but
that's pretty crazy. I would not think that you could even buy a lower level Premier League team for that much.
yeah. So like, even 450 million pounds is still only 609 million, $610 million. So yeah, I am surprised to see that there are Premier League teams that are worth so little. The only thing I can think, Chris, is just because of marketing and like the media rights here in the U.S. I think media rights are a lot more valuable because like NFL's shown kind of in places all over the world, whereas the Premier League probably doesn't do as well maybe outside of like that area, like in Northern Europe, just because there's so many other leagues, right? Not this isn't taking away from the Premier League and the athletes or anything like that. It's just like if you live in Spain, you're probably more likely to watch La Liga than Premier League, right? If you live in Germany, you're more likely to watch Bundesliga than the Premier League. So like maybe just because not all of Europe is watching this one league, whereas in the U.S., all of the U.S. is watching this one league.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. I don't know anything about the dynamics of the Premier League, but having multiple leagues where the top teams are competitive and then competitive with each other in like the UEFA Cup, that makes a lot more sense. Or, sorry, Champions League, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'll eat crow because I just said that I thought it didn't make sense in the show. I guess it does make sense in the show. They did the research. Good job, show. Those writers are great. But yeah, I'm
Look at
surprised to
us.
see that. I'm surprised to see that the Lakers are worth $12.5 billion, but a Premier League team, could be bought for 500 million. That's
Look at us
surprising.
learning new things on the show.
So basically, if you're rich but not like FU rich, look at buying a soccer team in Europe as opposed to a basketball team in the U.S. That's your play. The more you know. All right, let's move on to some football, Chris. Now that we've kind of rambled, I got some player rankings on the screen here. Can you see them?
I can.
All right, so we're gonna start with running back. That's kind of the big look. If you're new to fantasy football, stud running backs are the play. I went over the math on this last year. You're more likely to win a championship in our league, and in most leagues, but I'll say in our league because it's non PPR. If you have a stud running back that you hit with, than stud wide receiver, and the reason for that is the drop off between the stud running backs to the middle tier running backs is so much greater than the drop off from stud wide receiver to middle tier wide receiver. Yes, you might get a crazy pick like the JSN pick last year and it outshines everybody. I get that. But in general, your average top 10 wide receiver isn't going to be as far away from the 11 through 20 wide receivers as a top 10 running back is going to be from the 11 to 20 running backs. And here's a case in point. These are the CBS rankings. Now, I will say, Chris, I think we'll both agree that CBS doesn't always have the best rankings. But these are the ones that they have. So we're going to use them just because that is the platform we play on, and it's nice having them all next to each other. And when you look at this list, Chris, is there anything that stands out to you about where certain players are on these guys, either the overall consensus list or their individual list? Because I had a couple thoughts I wanted to throw out and ask you about, but also see what you have to say first.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, looking at it, it's interesting. They're all in lockstep on one, two, three, and not even like who's going to be one, two, or three. They have them all in order,
Right.
and then it becomes a bloodbath after that.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the point that I was trying to make. Like, perfect example, look at Jamie Eisenberg. Jamie Eisenberg has been doing this for forever. He's got Aston Genty at 5. Chris, you were someone who had Aston Genty last year. If you had Aston Genty, that didn't work well for you, right?
Yeah, it's an awful pick.
It was an awful pick. And it's not, look, it's not that he was a bad player. He's on a bad team in a bad situation, and that situation didn't get that much better, right? So, Chase Brown, same thing. Like, I don't think Chase Brown had that good of a year last year, right? Maybe I'm misremembering, but let me open it.
No, I don't think so either. He doesn't stand out to me right now.
And I get that they're doing it based on projections and whatnot. There's different how you're going to do this year versus how you did last year. I understand all that, but if we look at how many points people got last year, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chase Brown's pretty far down the list, and they've got him pretty high up the list,
Yeah,
right?
I mean Eisenberg. Yeah, those are two huge reaches for Eisenberg.
Well, but the reason I pointed out Chase Brown specifically is the consensus has him at 5. This guy has him at 5. Heath Cummings is actually the new person. Dave Richard and Jamie Eisenberg have been with CBS forever. So the new person is the only one who doesn't have Chase Brown that high. He's the only one that has him down here, right? So, but I think this is going to be one of those years I think where we're seeing stud running backs start to disappear more and more each year over year. I feel like every year there's less and less guys where you're just like set them and forget them at running back, and a lot more not playing matchups like you would with the defense, but like when you're doing your draft, it's like what's their schedule like, when is their bye, stuff like that. Whereas used to like, oh, this guy's just good, I'm taking him. I don't care what his schedule's like.
So do you think this has more to do with like these experts saying that they think some of these quote unquote top guys outside of the top three are going to fall? Or do you think it's more about them thinking Chase Brown and Ashton Jeanty are actually going to be good? Does that make sense?
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think for the Chase Brown one, this is just my opinion. I think they are predicting that the Bengals will be better this year, and that as a result, Chase Brown will be better. Because last year Joe Burrow didn't play a lot of the season, and obviously a lot of the value tied to that backfield is Joe Burrow. When you have a
Yeah, and
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and he's got no one toting the rock behind him, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean that definitely helps, but I mean just like if you're a team that can't throw, you get to stack the box, right? So
Yeah.
and there are very few guys named Derrick Henry that you can say I don't care if you stack the box, I'm still running for 1,200 yards, right? There are very few guys that do that. Normally, look at Ashton Genty. Dude was great in college. They stacked the box against him, and he had no O-line. He didn't even break 1,000 yards as a rookie,
Right.
and he had no competition.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with the Chase Brown picks specifically, I think they're all saying we think Joe Burrow is going to play, we think he'll be healthy, and as a result, Chase Brown is going to have a good year. For the Ashton Genty one, I'm with you. I think that might be more they predicted drop off. I mean, for example, look where everyone has Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry didn't have nearly as good of a year last year as he did the year before, but that's kind of normal. Anytime someone goes for 2,000 or near it, they don't have as good of a year the next season. So, a lot of guys have Derrick Henry further down the list. He is eventually going to hit that ceiling, right? Most running backs over 30 don't play well, and he's going to be 32, right? Like he's old. He's an old man at this point. Yeah, he's already 32.
Yeah. I mean, say what you want about Henry. I mean, until like his body breaks down, I think he's the exception to the rule.
Yeah, and I think another reason we have so much of this kind of crapshoot, as it were, is because of how much movement there was this offseason. Like, for example, I mean, CNC's hurt, so I'm not going to talk about him. But, Ashton Genty, like, he does have better pieces on the offensive line. The Raiders did go out and sign offensive linemen. O'Marion Hampton, we don't know what he's going to be like. People were really high on him coming into the season, and then he got hurt. So we don't know what he's going to be like. Devon Achane, he's been great, but he's going to have a new quarterback now. How is that going to affect his play? Because part of his greatness was how many passes that were thrown to him. They might not be in the same scheme. Kenneth Walker was a beast at times in the season last year. He's on a completely new team. We don't know how he's going to be used. The Kansas City running back could be RB1, right? If they treat him the way Kansas City treated guys like Priest Holmes back in the day, he could be RB1. But he also could very easily be RB27 because they don't use him to the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about like how much does Eisenberg ranking Chase Brown and Genty that high has to do more with the uncertainty of the guys behind them, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. And that could be part of it too, is that these two guys are going to be the ball carriers for their teams.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Brown is going to be the primary ball carrier for the Bengals. Ashton Genty will be the primary ball carrier for the Raiders. Anytime they have to run the ball, there's probably a 70% or higher chance that those are the guys getting it. Whereas these other teams have other guys to split with. Even James Cook doesn't get all the carries, which the only reason he's not higher is because he doesn't get all the carries.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my take on running backs. I didn't ask you to prepare this beforehand, so totally cool if you don't have one. But do you have a guy that you think is either a sleeper that's going to be higher up than people expect, or the opposite? Do you have a guy who's rated highly that you do not think is going to have a good year? You just like, I'm off that guy this year.
I mean,
if you don't want to tell me, you don't have to. I
no,
understand.
no. You mentioned it like you're not going to talk about him, but like CMC terrifies me this year. I mean, he's obviously got injuries already, so I just like how far does he fall, and then is he really that injured? I mean, he's got general. What is it? It was general tightness is what he was experiencing for the last 2 weeks.
Which means they're just not telling you what it is.
Yeah, but like. And then, like, does he fall to, like, a late first-round pick and then ball out, and then that's going to be someone, at the turn who picks up Christian McCaffrey and then, a great quarterback or a great wide receiver or, like, a solid running back and has a lot of success? Or, is it going to be like when I drafted him and he just doesn't play the rest of the season?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his entire time in San Francisco, he's been a baller other than the year he got hurt. But man, if you had him the year he got hurt, you got screwed. Kind of like you did.
Literally, when you look at the last 5 years on his history, there's 1 year where he shouldn't have been drafted, the year that I drafted him.
Yeah. But even if you go back further than that, like the 2 years prior to that, he didn't play full seasons either, right? So like if you look at the long term, like this is a guy who's had an injury history, and he is 30. That is the ceiling for most running backs. Now he may last longer because he's more of a scat back pass catcher than a pure runner. There's years where he has, not last year obviously he had a ton of carries, but there are years where he 17 games only 240 carries, right? Because he gets a lot of his work in the passing game. So he may last longer than some other running backs, but still that 30 is the magic number for running back. When you hit 30,
Yeah,
most running backs fall off a cliff. The human body's
yeah,
not meant to do this for that long.
yeah, yeah. And then just answering your question, I have a second player who I think is pretty interesting. It's Devon A. Chain. I mean, I'm reading some reports about them saying that they're going to basically use him until he has to be picked up off the floor. And like, if that's the case, that's really interesting. If they're just going to feed him the rock, I mean, but at the same time, you worry about number one, durability, and then number two, how much do you believe what these coaches are saying?
Yeah, I mean, and looking at these guys' rankings again, like you can tell that this guy Heath Cummings is drinking the Kool Aid. He's got Devon Achane at number 5, whereas Eisenberg and Richard have him at 10 and 11, right? Which are two very different rankings as far as fantasy football is concerned. So yeah, and that's another guy that I think he's in that same vein as Christian McCaffrey. He, not because of injury concerns as much, although there are some, but it's more of that is a guy who can either win you a league because people slept on him and you didn't, or he can lose you a league because you took him early and he didn't live up to the hype. I think both those guys are going, like, there's no world where you draft those guys and they were just average. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think
Yeah.
there's a world where I drafted this guy to be RB6 and he was RB6. No, no, no. You're either drafting him to be RB3 and he ends up being RB12, or you drafted him to be RB12 and he was RB3.
Yeah, and that's where like it gets really interesting. Like how many managers are going to be comfortable taking these guys in the middle and second half of the first round?
And another name that I think is going to be very interesting to see where they go is Saquon, right? Saquon Barkley, unlike Henry, who fell because Henry's old. Saquon's not 30 yet. He's only 29. Now he had injuries in the past, but his last couple of years he's played the full season, and he had that amazing season. And then last season, obviously, he didn't get nearly as much utilization, and his fantasy points plummeted, right? So the question is, going into this year, was that, hey, we didn't want to put so much tread on the tires because of how much we used in the previous season, and now we're going to ramp him back up? Because we see that happen a lot when guys go for 2,000, they get ramped down the next season, right? So now he's had his cool down season. Does he get ramped back up, or is this just who he's going to be now? The 280 carry back, now the 350 carry back.
Yeah, yeah, he's someone I initially just off the top of my head, like I said, I haven't done like any research at all this season, but he's just generally someone I think I'm going to stay away from. I think I had him in a couple teams last year, and it was just tough to have him starting every week.
Yeah, and this is a guy too. Like when you look at his career, like he's had more down years than up years. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He's had 3 good seasons, and then he's had 6 medium or worse. If we don't count the injury seasons, right? Like take those 2 out of it. It's like he's had 3 good seasons and 4 medium seasons. Like, so he's more likely to be medium than good, but we've seen how good the good version is, and he's still playing for the team that just 2 years ago he had that amazing season. So yeah, I think it's gonna be tough how people evaluate running backs, where they go. It'll be interesting to see how our league does it, because I know last year there was a consensus among a lot of us about where the fall off was. Like, there was like an obvious tier 1 and an obvious tier 2 for most people. That after that you were just really worried about it. This year there's clearly an obvious tier 1 with these top 3 guys. But I think tier 2 this year, as opposed to last year where it was kind of like everyone agreed on tier 2, I think this year people's tier 2s are all going to be different. I think my tier 2 might be different than yours. Yours might be different than Mitch's. Mitch will be different than Vinny's, etc., etc. So that'll be interesting to see. It's going to come down to, if someone is on your tier 2 list that's not on someone else's, can you wait to take him to get that extra value? You know what I mean? And how do they play out? So I think that's where I think the kind of like late first and then second round is going to be really interesting in our draft this year.
I'm laughing because as you're saying all this, I'm thinking about how long like picks 6 through 20 are going to take.
Yeah, where can I see? Should we wait? Yeah, I wonder if we can still see last year's times. So yeah, let me. Yeah, so just for some context, last year if you look at the times, like obviously break takes a while, sure, but like everyone else besides break and then Miles, who because this is where the cutoff was for a lot of people, it was after Kyron and Josh Jacobs, like this is where the picks started taking longer, but even then we only had 2 picks go over a minute in the first round, only one, and it was me, where I made a horrible pick, so I wish I hadn't in the second round up until Cameron, who might have been debuting or something. So yeah, I think we're going to see much higher times on these picks, is what I'm getting at.
I think so too.
So
I got to get mentally prepared.
for sure, for sure. All right, well, I wanted to at least cover a little fantasy football. There's obviously a lot more that needs to be talked about later on. Like I said, there's going to be a short episode. I've got some stuff I need to take care of. As I said, I'm going on vacation. But yeah, I will get some more coverage out to you guys, even if it has to be solo, because I do want to cover stuff and have some content going into the fantasy football season. We're a fantasy football podcast, after all. We should probably talk a little fantasy football. But I think that's going to wrap it up for now, Chris, unless you had any final thoughts, any final stories, could be about this or anything else that you wanted to talk about.
No, I have to ask. You can't just drop the word vacation and not tell us where you're going.
Going to the beach. Yeah, whole family's going to the beach. California people flying in. We're driving down. Should be a good time. Going to celebrate a lot of people's birthdays. It's supposed to be a group birthday celebration, but let's be real. We're going to be there on my niece's first ever birthday. It's going to be all about her. I don't think we're going to be celebrating my birthday that happened a week and a half ago, but it's cool. It's cool. I want to celebrate my niece. I recently bought gifts, and I talk about them, but I can't because my brother might listen to this pod. He won't, but he might.
I get it. Well, happy birthday, Kamish, and I think you should sneak in your name on that birthday cake.
I know for sure. Well, my mom did buy me a slice of cake. Thanks, Mom. Shout out, Mom. She bought me a slice of cake for my birthday, which was nice. But anyway, thanks everyone for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, we will see you next time.